We are back, everybody. It is day 3, episode 3, and today I have chosen my attire appropriately from a great show called Separate and Equal. It's actually a show about a pickup basketball game. My topic today, systemic racism in this country. Yeah, what a topic to tackle on day 3, right? I actually ended up leaving this how we left it yesterday, so I could just talk to you while we go through it. One of the reasons that Separate and Equal turned out to be so great is because it really faced a lot of the issues that we as white people tend to ignore. We don't have to pay attention to the fact that people are dying all the time at the hands of police officers. I'm not one of the people that believes that all cops are bad cops. I had a stepdad before he passed. He was a police officer for over 20 years, and he was a good dude. So I don't know if there was any racism going on there. I don't know. Right now we are being confronted. We have never really gotten past any of the racism that happens.
My computer was on the struggle bus, so as we continue our hat, we have made the brim of the hat. We are working on looping and pulling, and it's just going to go over and over and over and over until your hat is as tall as you want it to be, honestly. When we say systemic racism, it means that the systems that are in place in this country are inherently racist systems. How police officers are trained to look for suspicious activity, or how mortgage companies would lend to certain areas of a housing community and not others, which is known as redlining. Redlining is a term coined in the 1960s regarding the absolutely racist segregation law that was implemented in 1934 when they established the Federal Housing Administration. So basically, lenders would draw areas on maps, draw a red line around areas that they were not going to lend to based on demographics alone. Usually, Black inner city communities were not allowed to purchase homes. They were not allowed to get loans. It became super evident when soldiers would come back from World War II. Black soldiers had a lot of racism to face when they came home. There are stories about how Black men in uniform would be lynched because they were just wearing their uniform. The term in the 60s came about because when the soldiers returned, they weren't allowed to get loans, and they weren't allowed to move into these neighborhoods, and they weren't allowed to have the option to purchase a home and start building wealth. Mortgage companies justified it, saying, oh, well, that's not a great area. It's actually not worth a lot. Well, guess where those houses happen to be? BIPOC neighborhoods were not allowed to get these loans. From the very beginning of home ownership for the average person, Black, Indigenous, people of color, nobody's able to purchase their home. And that is how the main way people build wealth. And so when you can't purchase your own home, if you can't find a way to build upon that generational wealth, people are handed down their houses generation to generation. And if you can't do that with your family, nobody's ever going to build that same kind of wealth. When you can't have that sort of thing, you're never starting at the same level as the people around you who keep getting a little bit of a leg up. Anyone who has received any kind of an inheritance will know that. Other things that have been going on, clearly, we have had a lot of Black Lives Matter protests. Certain higher offices like to label Black Lives Matter as a hate group. It is not. It is not a hate group. It is a please stop killing us group. For as long as this country has memory, this country has acted like Black lives do not matter. Period. The end. That Black lives just don't matter at all. Some of us know that to not be true. They had to stand up and say, look, we matter. Black lives matter just as much as everybody else. We matter at all. You need to understand that we matter. Nobody said all lives matter until people started pointing out that Black lives matter. It's not that they're saying that anybody is like mattering more than another person. It's saying, please stop killing us because our lives are of value. Pro-life people will be like, oh my gosh, that whole pregnancy could have cured cancer. Well, you know what? Maybe Trayvon Martin was going to grow up to cure cancer. But instead, he was shot for carrying a bag of Skittles wearing a hoodie by some racist-ass dude. There are people that are shot just for jogging. So, they started marching. And on the occasion, I have marched with them. I'm trying to figure out how to best support the movement and amplify their voices. Because clearly, I am just a very white girl. And I don't experience the racism that they do. And the more that I find out about it and read about it, of course, I am horrified. But it's not so much what can we do, because we as white people like taking action. Well, tell me what to do. But it can't be something that we just like, okay, go donate to this cause or go march with this one march or whatever, because we tend to absolve ourselves of responsibility for stopping any sort of systemic racism that we may or may not witness. Because, okay, we donate once. Great, I did my part. I washed my hands. Done. Or I, went to this one march. Oh, look, I showed up. They said for me to show up. Well, this is a marathon, y'all. It's not going to change if, we have like one time. You got to keep going. We as white people really need to see what we are doing to our BIPOC siblings by just not paying attention. We don't have to. That's the thing. That's one of the great things about white privilege is we don't have to pay attention because it doesn't mean life and death for us every single day. We have to pay attention. We have to use our voices, and we have to start changing the systems that got us to this absolute inequality. I'm so sick of people putting out there, they're like, oh, well, racism is over. No, it's fucking not. It's not over. Racism is alive and well in this country, and it's infuriating. Back when I was doing this show, we took a trip to the Civil Rights Museum in Birmingham. And if that isn't a wake-up call to what has been going on in this country, all about the civil rights movement, all about MLK Jr., there is a copy of his letter from Birmingham jail. And reading that letter was jolting, because he specifically says in that letter that it is not the KKK, it is not the super out racists that are going to be the downfall of progress, according to civil rights, as far as civil rights goes. It is going to be the moderate. It is going to be the person who agrees but does nothing. That is the downfall. I mean, let's think about it. Who was it that actually made it possible for Nazi Germany to do all of the atrocities that they did? Was it the absolute outright Nazis? I mean, yeah, they had their orders, but there were how many citizens that just stayed in Germany? Oh, well, I'm not Jewish. Oh, well, I'm not gay. Oh, well, I'm not any of these things. So they're not targeting me. Guess it doesn't matter. Look at the great things he's doing for our country. No. They're still Nazis, y'all. They're the moderate, but they're still Nazis. Which also, why is there a resurrection of Nazis in this country? We fought literal wars over this. We need Indiana Jones to come in and punch some Nazis. It should be as difficult and dangerous to be a Nazi as it is to be a woman in this country. Think about that. Next time I'm going to pick up with how to finish the hat. So just like keep going. We need to abolish systemic racism. It's going to take a whole lot of people in office to even begin to propose this. In less than 2 weeks, there is an election. And I want you to go and look at who's running. Who's running on your ticket? Who is going to be on your ballot, what they stand for. And think about the lives of the people around you, who you know or who you don't know. And think about how electing these certain candidates will affect their lives. Because if you tell someone that you love them and you care about them, and then you vote for someone who is actively out to hurt them through legislation and trying to take away their rights, you don't actually love them. You are wishing them harm. So maybe think about that. Maybe think about how it's not all about you when you're in the voting booth. It's all about our country. And our country could really use some help right now. Just so we're clear, Black Lives Matter. Systemic racism is here and it's a problem. And keep working on your hat. Vote them out. Bye, y'all.